Hey everyone, it's Eric with FirearmTutorials.com, and today I'm going to talk about the Ruger 2245. There are almost an endless amount of options and different models of this gun. I'm going to talk about this one specifically, some of the things that I've done to it, some of the options that can be done to it, and just my overall impressions of the gun. So what you see here, like I said, is the 2245. Which is different from the Mark II or Mark III. You see here it says MKIII, but the older style guns are like the Mark II or Mark III, and they're closer resemblances of like the old Luger. The grip is a little bit different. It's got a steeper angle on it. It usually has a thinner barrel. It doesn't have the bull barrel like that. And sometimes they have different grips, but this is basically the newest rendition from Ruger for this series of gun. So I went with this one because it has the threaded barrel here. It's a 4.5 inch barrel, and it's threaded in 1/2 by 28 like every other 22. But it's a blast to shoot. Now, there are a few caveats to this gun, especially when shooting suppressed. Number one, you have to keep it clean. This bolt will get really dirty, especially on the bolt face inside here. And when it gets like that, not only does it start to drag a little bit, you'll start to get, stovepipes and stuff, but you'll also get when there's additional like carbon built up in the front here, it just won't close all the way, and you'll either have to smack it from the back or just make sure that you keep it clean so that doesn't happen, because it just won't go fully into battery. It'll seem like it will until you pull the trigger and the trigger just goes click, and then you're like, what the hell happened? Or it doesn't pull at all. So that's one of the things when shooting suppressed, and just in general, any guns that you shoot suppressed will get dirty. The magazines also will get dirty. You see there's a little bit of white residue here. That's from when I actually shot it with a suppressor that was charged with water. But overall, shooting a 22 with a wet charge in the suppressor isn't near as dirty as something like a 9mm or a 45. If I shoot an HK USP with a 9mm or a 45 and I charge the can with 5 cc's of water, usually there's a good amount of water flying out the breech, and it either gets all over my hand or sometimes even back in my face. Not so much with the 22. There's just not enough stuff going on in this gun, with the cartridge being as small as it is and as compact as this gun is. I really don't think that's the case, which is great because it allows you to shoot it being basically as quiet as this gun possibly can be. So pros for this gun, I would say, are this is, I'd say, the most, the best way to describe it would be the most, I don't want to say the most accurate 22, but compared to some other alternatives like the Walther, just was awful, at least for me. It was just so small, and it was so light, being mostly plastic. The slide is very light. It's not near as heavy as this gun with the all steel upper here, and it was just really difficult for me to shoot accurately. I just felt like I couldn't get a tight group. Whereas with this, you've got a better grip, I think, for people with bigger hands. There's enough meat here for you to grip it. Not that the gun has a lot of recoil or anything, but I hate it when I have to shoot guns with my pinky hanging off. So you don't get that with this gun. The sights, depending on what model you get, like I said, this gun comes in every combination of barrel style, whether it be the bull barrel like this, the fluted barrel where they put some grooves in the side here to save some weight, just the standard thinner barrel. You get everything from fiber optic sights, which I actually added on here, and they're adjustable as well, to just a Picatinny rail where you could add a red dot. They also have it along the bottom if you wanted to put a light or a laser or something. just depends on which model you go with. There's also various barrel lengths. There is a 22-45 light, in which this is aluminum instead of steel. Pros and cons to that: I like actually having a little bit heavier gun, just feels better in my hands. And also I find that, at least for me, if I have a heavier gun, just slight movements aren't projected so much towards the end of the muzzle. Whereas if you have a lighter gun, it feels like every little movement you make, makes it, I guess, a little harder to keep the gun steady. So, pros: reliability. I mean, this is about as reliable as you're going to get. You're still going to get some, fail to fires and stuff, just because of the nature of 22 ammo or rimfire ammo itself. And like I said, as long as you keep it clean, you shouldn't have any major feeding problems or anything like that. The only time I run into those really is when it gets dirty. And, shooting it suppressed, it's going to get dirty about 2 or 3 times faster than it would normally. So something to keep in mind. I will say the breakdown of this gun is brutal. Compared to everything else, there's several steps. You have to pull this thing out, and it's not the easiest thing to do. Some people will do it with a hammer because you have to put the pin out. I'm not going to cover that here, but I will say it's something that you definitely need to do a little research on. There's a couple videos on YouTube that show you how to do that, and I think they do a pretty good job. Now the sights, when I purchased this gun, it came with just a plain black rear sight and a plain black front sight. I actually colored this in silver to try and give it a little bit of contrast, but all in all, I hated them. So what I ended up doing was switching them to a pair of adjustable sights and the fiber optic sights. Now the issue with this, I had a lot of trial and error with this. Initially, when I bought this this rear sight, it came with just a plain black rear, just notched sight, which is not much different than the stock one the gun came with. So I just bought this extra piece here, which, you just pop this pin out here and you just basically screw it right in. Now with the front sight, I went with the fiber optic sight as well, and it comes with this little thing here. You see there's a couple different, I've got 3 reds and 2 other greens, just if you happen to lose this or break it. I haven't had any trouble with that so far. I'm kind of careful with it because of that, but at least they give you extra ones, and then they give you this little tool to kind of pop it out. So I liked that. However, I initially had some problem with deciding which size front sight to get. You see here's one that's just a little lower, and then I think this was one that actually came with, one of these came with the rear thing, and it took me a while to find whichever one was the right height. And a lot of that was my logic of how to line up the rear sight, because when I first put this on, I think it was shooting like about 4 or 5 inches high at 7 yards, so I knew that definitely wasn't the case. So I ended up just having to adjust the rear sight. I'll figure out which size I put on the front here and which one I have on the back, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that's had trouble with that. So that was the only thing, and I think this made a big difference, especially shooting at different targets. This has been the easiest thing for me to pick up visually. There's a ton of accessories for these. I mean, pretty much anything you could want, they make. You're talking upgraded triggers, bolts, larger safety levers, magazine releases, pretty much you name it. They actually make, there's a company called Packlight that makes a different upper here that comes in various colors, barrel lengths, and it's a lot lighter. They have threaded and non-threaded models. The only downside is everything is expensive. This gun, I think I paid, like I said, with the stock sights I showed you, I think I paid, you know, a little more than 300 bucks for it. And I actually bought it retail at a gun store, which I don't usually do. But I did, and depending on what you want to do to this gun, I mean, you could easily drive this up to, you know, $1,000 depending on what you want to do to it. The trigger job, the trigger on this isn't bad. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. It's a little gritty. So there's several ways to fix that. There's some internal parts you could smooth out yourself. There are actual complete trigger kits from Volquartsen. They make a lot of parts for this thing. So you can do all kinds of different stuff. Now the grips on this one actually are replaceable. They do make a 2245 where the grips aren't replaceable, and they have more of a flatter top up here. They don't go all the way up to the top and are curved, so if you're looking at them in the store or online, that's the easiest way to tell. These actually do have, these are actually little Allen screws. You can unscrew these and take them out, and obviously you can get you know, whatever grips you want. There's plenty of people offering them different colors and materials. These are actually wood, but they have them in aluminum or whatever you want. There was another downside that I wanted to mention to this. The breakdown. Oh, one other thing to mention, the magazines for this are specific to the Ruger 2245. So if you have the Mark II, the magazines are different because the floor plate's different. So just make sure that you do your research if you have a 2245 to get the right magazines, because they're not universal. Also, it doesn't seem like it would be a big deal, but as you load these guys, over time, you know, if you're shooting for an extended period of time, it's really going to start to bother your thumb, and your thumb will get dirty too. So this little thing was like, I don't know, a couple dollars, and it's just a real easy thing, you know, just makes it a lot easier, and then you just kind of drop the bullets in there. So for a couple dollars, this is, you know, one of the best things to use with this gun. Anytime I take this to the range, I take this as well. Mags, they're not, I don't know, I think for a 22, they're kind of expensive. I have 4 of them. I think it came with 2, and I bought 2 more. I don't know, I think they're like $25, maybe a little bit more, so they're not cheap. They are all metal though, and I think they should last a fairly long time. You can take them apart, you know, and clean them, and they do get fairly dirty, as you can see. Another thing that I hate about this gun, and it's not that big a deal, but it's fixable at least, is this gun has a magazine safety. So you'll see if I cock this gun right now, I can't pull the trigger. Even though the safety is off, that's safety on, safety off, looks to be the same thing. But once you put the magazine in, then you can fire it. So the magazine safety, I'm not big on. And it's also makes it a little annoying because when you change a mag, you hear it there, you have to actually kind of hit the trigger a little bit to disengage the magazine safety, and then, you know, you can just shoot it as normal. So I'll give you one more look at that. So if I were to just change a magazine here, and this magazine is a little hard to see because it's dirty, but just listen real close. That was the magazine safety. So now the trigger is set to proper firing position. So now you can actually fire the gun. So like I said, the trigger's not great on it, but it's not terrible. It's better than some other stock triggers I've found over the years. But you know, with a good suppressor, it's, like I said, a blast to shoot. This is the Warlock, which I've covered in a different video, but it's only 3 ounces out there on the end of the gun, so it doesn't really add any hindrance to shooting the gun. The sights are still tall enough to see over it, so there's no visual obstruction. There is a pretty significant first round pop. I don't know if that's related to the gun specifically or the suppressor. It's probably a little bit of both, if I had to guess, but like I said, it's still really not loud to begin with. Like some of the other, you know, larger caliber guns can still be a little bit loud. That's not the case with this. I mean, it's almost like Hollywood quiet. But, you know, compared to the other 22 pistols I've shot, even the Mosquito, the SIG Mosquito, I still like this one the best. I don't think it's quite the best to look at, and it's definitely not the best to take apart and clean, but, you know, I feel like I can actually shoot this gun accurately, which I can't do with some of the other 22s out there. They're just either too small or, you know, just the quality's not there and you have some reliability issues. So like I said, as long as you keep this clean, it's a great 22 pistol. And gosh, I don't know, I've put probably 5,000 rounds through this thing. I've had it a couple of years, and I haven't had any issues with the ammo. I've fed it all kinds of stuff. Usually CCI is what I feed this mostly, but you know, I've used the Walmart, you know, bulk ammo pack of 550 rounds, had no problems. I've used various Aguila ammunition, had no issues. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you have any other questions, let me know. I don't think I left anything out, but like I said, this is the 4.5 inch threaded model. There's, like I said, many different options out there. If you go on budsgunshop.com and look at their selection, they probably have 25, 30 of these in different configurations. So, you know, for around 300 bucks, it's not a bad gun. It's cheap to shoot. That's one of the main reasons I got it. Works great with a suppressor, and you know, it's just a lot of fun. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and be safe out there.